You go, okay, now what I need to do?
What I need to
Yeah,
do.
you always know podcasters when they're like delayed.
It's like, yeah, we gotta fit that in. Well, this has been a crazy day. I mean, you mark the halfway point. When we get to noon, we'll be halfway through. That we've got,
Yeah, because you're doing live. Yeah,
yeah,
you're
well,
doing
we
24 hours, right?
yeah, we started in a buddy in Kenya, then California, then Australia, and then London, and then a 9-year-old.
Yeah,
And
we've been all over the place.
hit Cleveland, and now we're back in Columbus. Oh,
Yeah.
we went to Coney Island first.
Yeah, we stopped in Coney
We
Island
stopped at
to
Coney
get some
Island,
Coney dogs.
and I actually listed you as being from the Americas.
Oh, okay.
I gave you the
Why?
I gave you the full range.
Yeah, I was born in South America, so
Yeah, right, right,
and I live in America, North America. So yeah, you got it. You hit
You
it right
should
on the nail.
right. The Americas.
get the gist.
Now, when somebody asks you where you're from, where do you go with from that? We're
Well,
live.
that's a good question.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good question because growing up, you have parents from who are from South America and they're immigrants and they come here and you have a father who's very he was a shaman, he was a teacher,
Right.
and he would say, "We're from Venus, you know that, right?" Originally, and I'm going, as a kid, you don't really understand these things. You're just going, "We're from Venus. What's that mean?"
What's that
And then you go
mean?
to school and then people ask you, "Where are you from?" "Oh, my dad says I'm from Venus." So it's like then the teacher calls in and goes, "Hey, your son is, say he's from Venus." And my dad's like, "Yeah, we're from Venus."
Yeah, we're from Venus.
Let me tell you the story.
Okay, go
We
ahead.
landed in we landed in South America.
Okay. And that's
So
like that's where we're from.
that's where we're from.
I the
And then we reside in Peru, South America. I was born in Peru. I was born in Lima, Peru.
in Lima. Do you have
hmm
any memories of Peru? I mean, how old were you when you left?
I was 3.5, almost 4.
Or
I was,
are there anything is there anything left? You know what I mean? Do you have a picture in your head that you can close your eyes and see, or
yeah, there's several actually. There's one of me and my uncle. Well, it's just kind of funny. My grandmother had kids alongside my mom and dad. They had the
oh,
same age group, which is kind of weird.
okay, yeah.
But so Coco and I, we were on the roof one time, spraying people with the hose as they walked by. We're little kids. I don't even know how I got on the roof. Okay, that's one thing I'm like, where are the parenting? Where's my parents? Where's my grandma?
Where are my parents at?
Yeah, and so we're spraying everywhere with water. He falls off and cracks his head, and that's how he got the name Coco
Oh,
because he fell off
jeez,
the
because
roof.
he fell off and busted his coconut.
Yes.
He fell off and busted his cocoa.
So, and then the other one's my grandmother.
hmm
She was kind of a wealthy woman. Her family owned what do you call propane companies and coal companies. Her family was
Okay.
part of that. And but I would visit her house and I would like go in the balcony and I'd open up her jewelry box and I throw her jewelry out the window to the people. And there's all these people out there, and my grandma just got crazy, went crazy.
Well, I mean, I can understand that.
And
Apol-
yeah, it's just crazy.
but
My mom wasn't telling me stories. I knew these stories, but my mom would like, she reaffirmed them to me and remind me. But the most scariest memory I have of Peru probably is when I walked into the kitchen. My dad had a turkey, and
mm,
he was ready to kill the turkey, and he just grabbed the turkey by the neck and just so that's memory just kind of sticks with you.
sticks with you, right? That
Yeah, and it's just like, okay, what was that all about?
what are we doing here?
Yeah, I don't want to eat Thanksgiving anymore.
I'm good. I'm
We don't
good.
even celebrate. We're from Peru. What the heck? But it's just one of those things that just kind of sticks with in your mind. But yeah, I have a lot of good memories of Peru. My most fondest memory is probably holding my sister's hand in the airport
Oh,
with
Oh,
this big cheesy, smile on my face, like, where are we going? Like, what's
where are
going
we?
on?
What's next?
was
Yeah, I had no clue. I had no idea. You're just a child and you're going, where the hell? Why is everybody at the airport with it? I didn't even know I was at the airport. I just knew I was getting on this big metal bird.
Right?
And I was really excited about that. And I was TWA. TWA was one of the old airlines that we
Right?
traveled. That's how I got to America and lived here in America undocumented for many years with my family. But it was
Did you come to Columbus first, or did you come somewhere else first?
well, we came to Columbus. My father came to America first. He came in through Florida, through Miami. He came in through there. and we were going to move to San Diego, but he got mugged. He got robbed. And they took his wallet, his money. He only had enough to make a phone call. He called my uncle who lived in Columbus. His name was Juan Olson. And Juan is the Norwegian side of my mom's family. And he's kind of an older guy. And he's like, yeah, come on up, and the rest is history. We've been here ever since, pretty much.
Wait a minute, back up. Did you say the Norwegian side of the family?
Oh yeah. I'm a Heinz 57, even though I have indigenous blood in my background. My mom has Italian, Norwegian in her blood, and indigenous Peruvian.
Do you occasionally find yourself pining for the fjords? That's the real question.
The fjords are called.
There's some documentaries I like watching more than others, so it's kind of interesting,
But it is interesting. So I always tell people that my background is raping and pillaging Vikings up and down the coast. Note the red hair.
Yeah.
Well, on both there was Scottish and Irish up and down that range, and Danish on the other side of the family.
Yeah. I'll just break it down for you. On my dad's side, they're Germans, they're Spanish, they're indigenous blood, Welsh, Scottish, and English. And like I said, my mom was Norwegian, Italian, and Ecuadorian. This is just the whole immigration. How everybody just flowed to one place.
Iggy is the whole melting pot.
Yeah, I mean, melting pots. There's melting pots everywhere.
Oh, and
I'm the big. Yeah, big salad.
Big salad.
Yeah. Solid conspiracy by
All
Big Salad.
All I can think is Ron White when he used to go, call me Tater Salad.
Tater Salad. That's funny. Yeah.
Iggy starts going by Big Salad.
Big Salad. That's my new shaman name, Big Salad.
There you go. Right. Keeping the green right.
That's right. Eat your veggies.
So, how do you work these days?
So, I asked that question. I read that question. And I asked my wife. She goes, what does he mean by that?
Exactly.
Today.
That's my goal.
And, she's like, yeah. And she's like, he goes, that's kind of an interesting way of asking somebody how they work. Because I don't really look at things as work, really. It's more like a flow through life.
Yeah.
And I follow the smoke, and wherever I kind of land, I either stay there or I move on.
Okay.
And so the work that I do is very, not really want to associate to work, because it's more like a love of what I do.
Yeah.
You're through drumming.
That. Yeah. That's something I've sensed. Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Iggy.
No, it's okay. The work I do is very personal and is very, very deep to my core, my soul. Because in the work that I do, we're called to do the work. We show up. Sometimes we don't know why we're here, but things become very apparent very quickly. Oh, you're supposed to be here because you're supposed to be an observer. Or you're here because you have to engage. Or you're here just because you took the wrong turn, but you're here. And you got to make the best of it in that situation. And so, that was a really powerful question. I read that and I was like, it's not what you really do. It's how you move through life,
Yeah. Now you get it right.
Who you are as a person, and how that your spirit and your soul moves and, flows with that. So it took me a second, but I figured it out.
Well, it was interesting. So about 3 months ago, I started. Did you ever watch Inside the Actor's Studio back in the day?
I've seen that show before. Yes.
It was, and he would always end with the 10 questions. And so for some reason, 3 months ago, this hits my head, and I've got pages in the notebook of. So then I go do the research on the guys that he always mentioned at the end. That then they were doing questions, and so I ended up with these French philosopher lists of their questions.
Oh, okay.
Because they were trying to figure out how could you put together a group of questions where you would actually know somebody. And I mean, they got some of them got to the point where there was like hundreds of questions. Some of them tried to make shorter ones. And I started looking at the idea of even simplifying the questions to the point that part of the question was a Rorschach test.
Yeah.
Well, but so that the person could take the question where it meant something to them.
Sure.
That some people on Where Are You From give a one-word answer. And some people have a history. And that it was, and I didn't plan on it. It was this weird thing where I was, speaking of following the smoke, we were coming into this month, and the plan was, this was going on, and we were trying to we're gonna try and raise some seed money to get the nonprofit underway.
Sure.
And I said, well, why don't we, as we're gonna move into stories, why don't we start with these 10 questions I've got written down? And I started messing with the graphic, and the order they're in wasn't the one I originally picked. It's the order that ended up aesthetically pleasing, and it's perfect. It wasn't.
Yeah.
It was just like, oh, that doesn't look right there. I got to move that there, and then you go, oh, okay, yeah. Where are you from? To why are you here? Okay, yeah, no, I get it now.
Yeah.
So how do you play?
That's the fun question. That was the good one,
right?
Yeah, because I mean, that's my life has been play.
It's important.
Even as a child, that was something I just did. There was nothing that kind of carried off into my, grade school, middle school. I always found time to enjoy who I was as a person. Even though when sometimes it was difficult being a human being on this planet, and play for me was anything from playing with toys, exploring out in the woods, collecting beer cans, and finding occasional Playboy magazines in the trash can.
I do remember that.
So, so it's kind of one of those things, as you're going through life, sometimes you have these experiences that teach you about life and how to play. And, I had it all wrong about how to deal with the other side of masculinity and femininity.
Yeah.
That's all, that was one of the things. So I would play wrong in that factor. But I actually attracted people into my lives who taught me how to play, which was really cool too.
That's powerful.
Yeah. So you attract that, like energies you attract. So when you're playful, you attract people like you. And so I remember being in bands. I was in a Macedonian band when I was 15. That was my playing, Macedonian music. When the drummer who was there and the clarinetist got deported. And so I was at the restaurant, and the Macedonian church was looking for someone to do it. So they knew I played clarinet and played some drums, and they taught me how to play these songs, these folk songs, in a matter of about a month.
Oh wow!
And I couldn't read music, and it was like fun, it was playful. The guy was like, yeah, just like playing, just like fun. Yeah, and I'm like, okay, it's just A D B, just remember all the letters, where they hit on your fingers, and that's how they taught me to play. And one of the first introductions to the thing that I call my playful, working, loving thing is drumming, which I learned how to play the darbuka, which is the dumbek, which is a Middle Eastern drum.
Oh,
that was my first initiation to a drum, a real drum besides kit drum, which I played. But that's like I can rip into that drum pretty good.
Right.
And that was something that I just learned to do because there was a need, there was a necessity. I didn't look at it as work. I looked at it as this is fun.
Like an opportunity. Yeah. The wildest thing is that's how I feel about the stuff I'm doing right now. That everybody, as you ask more questions, you feel close to people, and then you're like, and it's been powerful.
Yeah, just you know what it's like when you're podcasting. It's like play. It's like fun. You enjoy it. I remember when I wanted to do a podcast. I wanted to have my own radio station when I was a kid, and I went into this ham radio store in Reynoldsburg, Ohio. I remember this. I'll never forget this. This goes with the memory thing too. But I walk in, and there's these two old white guys, and I walk in. I'm like, hey, how you doing? Like, hey, what's up? Just they weren't really friendly because they knew I didn't have any money to buy anything, basically.
Right.
And so I walk in, I'm like, hey, so how do you start a radio station? Like started laughing at me. I'm like, what did I say? I'm like looking around. Did I say something funny? I'm like,
what did I do?
And they go, son, that takes millions and millions of dollars. You don't have that. I'm like, well, gee, well, thanks for having faith in me.
Man, I wish.
And and the cool thing about it was, things progress real quickly. Technology progresses, and boom,
now
it's like here we are. Now we got like.
Yeah.
We got like tons of radio stations on, tons of podcasting, tons of formats. And so I tell that story a lot because I hope that those guys are listening if they're still alive, because, people steal people's dreams.
They do
all the time and they don't even realize it. And so this is why I play. This is why I enjoy what I do, why I drum, why I sing, why I post funny things online, why I just present myself how I. I'm just me.
You have such a reactive comical face that you use to its absolute fullest. And there'll be I was I forget which video it was the other, and you're just like, this looks ridiculous. Are you people watching this? That's insane. And I mean, there's no
Yeah,
words, but this
yeah,
every bit of it coming across so perfectly. Yes. That there's to be
yeah.
silly.
But I
We're
stole my material from my brother though because he's funnier than me. My
all
brother Gino, he's oh my god, he's just a natural. I work really hard at it. Like it doesn't come natural to me.
all material stolen.
Yeah,
Once
you know,
I tell the guys when they're trying to write music, when they're trying to write whatever, because I write more bookish stuff, but that in the end you have to come to terms with the fact all wisdom and ideas are organic. They can't,
yes,
that
I agree.
you
Very organic.
yeah, you stole it from somewhere. There had to be there was a seed. Now,
There's a seed. There's an influence, right?
yeah.
Yeah,
So that I
yeah,
try and no, make it yours. If something's like a thought, go, I see it this way, and just twist it a little bit.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
that it's an interesting thing as we work our way through this world now. Yeah, no, it's a brave new world. I mean, we can.
Hmm.
I liked it. I like to think of it as, we're finally at a moment where the people of the world like can have an actual discourse. And you know what? I've looked around and I think it's about time we talk.
Yeah,
Like, I've noticed we've left the children in charge. The rest of us have been busy raising kids and trying to make a better
hmm,
life. We might want to go check on what's going on. This is a mess.
yeah. There's a lot of evolution happening right now in our
Yeah.
world. There's a lot of quickening happening, unlocking happening.
Well, and the interesting thing is a lot of people have focused on the downside of things going on, but I have also noticed a wave. That it really,
Yeah, I agree.
yeah, that there's
I agree.
you go when you go out into the world with messages like ours, that
Yeah.
we see things in a more compassionate, mindful sort of way, that
Hmm.
it ends up, a lot of people are really, really open to the idea that, okay,
Yes.
maybe we've been screwing this up. What were you saying? That
Mm.
it seems like that moment. Like I I was watching Fear and Loathing in Aspen. Actually, it was Hunter S. Thompson, and
Okay.
it's it's like you're watching them have the same fight. The hippies and the freak, the what was
Yeah.
it, freak power was what he was all
Freak
about.
power.
That I feel like we're at a moment where everybody's looking back and going, oh, maybe we shouldn't have like stopped. Maybe we should have had some follow through on that thought. That
Yeah.
so how do you pray?
I think
Oh, go ahead. No,
what
you're fine.
before we I want to
Yeah.
close that topic off is I believe there was a renaissance of sorts.
Okay.
And when I say unlocking and awakening is because I saw that a lot of people did things that they wouldn't usually do when we were locked away in our homes,
Yeah. Yeah.
painting, creating, writing, and billionaires got richer and millionaires got richer. So everything happened. There was a renaissance. There was a growth.
Yeah.
So
People found themselves.
spiritual. Yeah, yes, there was a spiritual awakening in a lot of people. And if you didn't have that, it's not that you didn't have one; it's that you didn't realize you were having one. You know, because
Yeah.
there's some things that you're going to do different. You're gonna do things that you probably didn't even think you were able to do. Just being by yourself alone in a room and not around other human beings for a long period of time, you start to have those thoughts. You start to talk to yourself. You start to communicate with you, or then you start to connect with the ancestors and the things and those voices that you didn't have time to listen to because it was just so loud out in the world.
Yeah. Very much. That I mean, I don't know how to. Yeah, I felt called to do something 25 years ago, and I fought with it
Mm-hmm.
because all I knew was responsibility. Especially as guys, that's what we know. That what we know
Her,
is we're supposed to pick up this part.
yeah,
And so when I felt like, oh, I'm supposed to go, do something to change the world at 25, I said, I got kids to raise.
I think
yeah.
I think there
I'm with you there.
I think there becomes a point where you get to a place where it's like grow or die.
Mm,
And it's
Mm,
like
okay.
you I feel like COVID did that for a lot of people. You know,
Mhm.
I feel like the pandemic did that for a lot of people, where it was like, okay, everything that you had, take that away. Don't don't worry about that. All the social interaction, all the stuff you were doing before, take that away. All you have is
Yeah.
yourself. What do you have? Build up from there.
Hmm.
Oof. Yeah,
It's a good point.
yeah.
Powerful.
It was like a reset or something. Like I don't know. It's so inspiring to see how many people have like reignited their lives because of the pandemic.
Yeah. Pandemic lessons.
Yes.
I have felt somewhere there's a book in my head called Pandemic Lessons. And you know what? That things like that reawakening, things like where I talk about the idea that I think our neural diversity is more like a virus's protein spikes. You
Mm,
know, that the
Mm,
reason everybody sees it a little bit different,
right.
that's a
sure.
feature, not
Because
a
we're a little
fault.
bit different.
Yeah, quit trying to beat
Yeah.
that out of people because that's actually a feature,
Hey
guys.
man, we need some
Yeah.
left-handed folks, okay?
We need some left. We're winning the war.
We
We've
need
Yeah,
actually,
some.
that's a good point. Yeah, that's an excellent point.
we,
I think our percentage is going up
yeah,
or
the
something.
percentage of left-handed people is going up.
Yeah.
We're winning. We are winning
Yeah.
slowly, very slowly.
Very, very slowly taking over.
Us ambidextrous are in trouble then, I guess.
Ambidextrous are really in trouble.
Well, what'll happen is both left and right will judge ambidextrous and say that doesn't really exist.
Yup.
And we're
You
like,
know?
and we put our hands up in the air. Hey, hey.
Hey,
What we really need is a left and right world. We don't need ambidextrous.
so
That's
true.
funny.
So,
All right.
my shaman friend, sir, how do you pray?
That's another powerful question that
Yeah,
you proposed here because there's so many ways to pray.
yeah.
And, I remember how I prayed prior to having COVID and now how I pray after, post COVID.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's
Like
interesting.
before, yeah, before it was like very ritual oriented. I'd get up every day and I didn't want to miss a beat, like meet the sunrise or didn't or whatever. It was just very important to me. But then when I got sick, I was in the hospital with COVID pneumonia.
Yeah,
I found myself very quickly in my own personal head. It was really bad. It was a bad situation because I didn't know if I was going to walk out of the hospital. So let's just put it that way. It makes the story short because I know we don't have a little bit of time. So
good. Yeah, go
when
ahead.
I was in the hospital, I was just like alone. Like I didn't see ancestors. I didn't see angels. I didn't hear God's voice. I didn't hear anything.
Oh, wow.
There was no, there was nobody but me and the medical staff that would come in and visit me and that I would praise and thank. And I'm thinking, this is really interesting because always have some kind of, some kind of confirmation or some kind of voice or some kind of
Yeah.
something that comes.
So it felt silent.
Yeah, it was very silent, but I started to realize very quickly that I don't pray for myself, and I don't acknowledge me in the process of prayer. I always acknowledge externally to the earth, the mother, to my brother, my sister, my kids, my wife, to all the people I care about,
Good.
and then I go, and I'm going, well, shoot, what about me? Am I allowed to pray for myself? Can I ask God to bless me? Like, can I, really have these questions really deep? And then, eventually start getting a little bit stronger. And then they put a longer tube so you can walk through the room. And I look out the window and I see the sunset because I wasn't able to see it because I was in my bed.
Right.
And I'm going, okay, the sunset is acknowledged and sometimes we don't acknowledge it. So it's just like when you have time to acknowledge yourself, do it. And if you forget, it's not a big deal. But prayer, for me, prayer is very powerful. Prayer is very important because I believe it's very powerful.
Yeah.
There's no way to explain it because it's an individual process with everybody. Everybody prays in their own unique way.
Yes.
There's no standardized way of praying.
That's very
Some days
true.
I light the candle for purgatory so my parents can go to heaven, and some days I don't.
Mm.
And then they're knocking on the door. No, I'm just joking. But,
They're like, where's my candle?
yeah, but it's funny because it's I when I pray and I forget to pray, I don't get so freaked out about it. There was a time I get freaked out about it,
Right.
but I try to connect with nature. I try to connect with my ancestors. I acknowledge God, the universe, to recycle all the things that no longer work for me. And so my prayer is about asking to take back the things that I perceive as negative, or how others may perceive as negative. And I just say, hey, can you recycle this back into the universe and reconstitute it and make it into a better thing? Because I don't have that ability. You do.
Right.
And so, because in the work that I do, a lot of people who do the similar work that I do, they cast energy off people, right? But I can't say, I'm just projecting here, but sometimes it feels like they don't set intentions to see where that energy lands.
Oh, energy work's hard work. My mom's Reiki trained, and I've been playing with Reiki. So my thing is, I grew up around these ex-hippies that were all of a sudden all interested in this energy work in the 80s. And I was the 13-year-old kid that went to this, it was a once a week or once a month thing that I'd go to with my mom, and they'd discuss new agey kind of stuff. It was when it was starting to get really hopping in the 80s with the new age outlook. And we all started, there was a discussion, and one of the guys that led it was a guy that was a massage therapist that had been and it wasn't like I ever did anything formal, but it was just as like, oh, okay, well, you can play with, okay, you can do that, right?
Yeah.
Like,
well, yeah.
Make that little ball of energy in your hand because it's fun.
Hey, we do it every day.
Right.
Everybody does. Sometimes we discount that we're not enlightened or powerful or, connected. Every human being's empathic. Every human being has gifts. Every human being that walks this planet is here for a reason because they have a part to play. And so, it's really important for people to remember that, if you really want to do this work, you just have to do the work. You have to learn the processes. But there are people who are gifted who can just put their hands on you and heal you. And they don't know how it works. And then as soon as you try to train them and teach them, you screw them up.
Then they're broken. No, I believe it.
It's because you change their processing in their mind. You change their processing.
Right.
It's like rewriting it's like rewriting program on a computer. If you don't want your computer to do a certain thing, you change it. Human mind's the same way.
Absolutely. And you can rewire it.
Yes.
There's active rewiring is one of the.
Yes.
I had hit my lowest, and it was a literally repetitive mantra of, you know what, tomorrow, one of the possibilities is tomorrow could be a better day. Not tomorrow's going to be a better day. I mean, because that's bullshit. Everybody knows that's not guaranteed. But
it's good to be here.
We're right, and that I had to start off with accepting the idea that there could be something good, and that if I wasn't paying attention, I might miss it. And that it was from that, then that little seed inside of my day, it seemed like it just kind of grew. That as you more and more defined it, not by the day, but by whether or not you had approached it with the right intent. Not to say days aren't still going to go wrong, but in the sense of if you were present, it seemed like days are actually pretty good. It's good to be here.
Yeah, it's good to be here. If you're having a bad day, look in the mirror, have a conversation with yourself. Because that's the person that you have to be accountable to. That's the person who will make decisions. And the thing is, when we look in the mirror, we're actually looking to the opposite side of ourselves.
Right.
People, the way we look at ourselves is not the same way people see us.
It's the exact opposite. Absolutely.
Yes. So, and that plays a big factor in your psyche, in your mind. Flip the camera and watch yourself how you really look to other people. It freaks you out. It bugs you out.
I find when you look in the mirror and it's hard, that means you need to keep looking.
The mirror work is very powerful work because you're actually doing ancestral work. You're connecting with ancestors. If you want to go into a portal and you want to connect with people, you will see another human being appear on that mirror.
I've 100% felt that. I've looked in the mirror and I saw my father.
And
it freaked me the heck out when I saw that, because I was like, it's crazy powerful how it's crazy powerful.
Just don't turn off the lights and say Bloody Mary 3 times.
Biggie Smalls, Biggie Smalls, Biggie Smalls.
Biggie Smalls.
Biggie Smalls.
Baby.
The mirror work is important because we will reflect back to others what is inside of us, pieces and parts, not wholes, only pieces and parts. There's half truths in everything. So everything that we hear, part of it's true and part of it is questionable. We're questioning the other half.
Right.
Yeah. And so I've embraced the idea that I don't know anything. You know,
Okay.
so that I've just kind of gone with, you know what, I've got a feel for it, and
Yeah.
we'll see what really happens. So what do you love,
That's
Iggy?
that's
Oh,
that's
go
an
ahead.
interesting question, though. You know,
Yeah,
when you ask that, I don't know anything. But
I
yeah, here we are on the, here we are on the we're on a podcast creating all
right
kinds of cool stuff. Yeah.
from the
But I
chaos.
totally get what you're saying. Yeah, it's the chaos. Yeah. There you go. That's the chaos.
What do you love out there in the world, Iggy? You're a man full of heart. I mean, it
Yeah.
immediately it radiates
Yeah.
in my
Well,
heart. Yeah, go ahead.
this question may have a lot of different answers, but I'm going to go with I'm going to go with the basic things that maybe people will answer.
Okay.
That my family,
Right.
my wife, my children, my grandchildren, I love those guys
Right.
like nobody's business because they inspire me.
It,
They teach me.
it I often so I one of the things I do is I go to a class in Vietnam every couple weeks. Not the Zoom,
Mhm.
obviously. No, it's not. I fly out every week. You know, we go to Vietnam for classes.
Maybe you're teleporting.
Yeah, right. Hey, you know what? There are ways to get there. My mom says I'm not allowed to do that. She specializes in bringing people back to
You're
their
not allowed to
bodies.
teleport
Yeah, I'm not
anymore.
allowed to leave my body. She says I don't do that. No, that's that.
No, Matt, no.
Oh my god, it's you know what? When it comes to the way they look at things, and it's a group that so some of the teachings on guru worship isn't really my big thing,
Hmm.
except the way it translates in my head, which is every living thing I come in contact fits that bill.
Hmm.
You know, it, they it's a common, you know what, when the student is ready, the master appears. And my point of view
Hmm.
is when the master is ready, student appears. Not in the sense that a student shows up, but in the sense that when the master is truly ready, he realizes he's a student.
Yes. And
And
I'm more goo than rue.
right. That in the end,
This is true. This is a true story because this is something I told to several of my students that, they always thank me for being their teacher, but
yeah,
I'm also their student. I'm also learning from them.
yeah,
It's hard for them to wrap their mind around that sometimes, but we're there to teach each other, through the processes because as we're teaching, as teachers are teaching, our students are teaching, vice versa. Every human being that comes into your contact is your teacher and your student all simultaneously, all at the same time.
we all teach,
I'm
we
not
all,
a big
yeah,
I'm not a big guru person. I'm not like, you follow one person and that's it. If you want to do that, that's fine.
yeah,
And I don't encourage that in the teachings I do and the students I have. I said, we don't do that. But I will say one thing. If I'm going to show up, be somewhere, and you want to pick some of the knowledge out of my head that I have about certain things, you might want to show up. It's not, you don't have to, but might want to show up. That's
yeah.
probably the most I will ever do, where I put some kind of condition on there. But most times it's just we just connect, we become friends, and we learn and we teach each other. And it's all about the process of being human, about
Yeah.
being human beings, about being fragile, about being open, letting go, releasing, and going, man, I never thought about it like that until I talked to you about it. And because sometimes what happens is in the work that we do, in this work that we do, you get people who are very wounded and
Yeah.
they're the most powerful person on the table. They're kind of in control in that moment because their stories are real to them. Their
Yeah.
stories are what has brought them to you or brought them to other people, and their stories, their trauma gets stuck over here, but their story continues to develop and develop and develop and creates. And the trauma back here is going, hey, what's up? You
Yeah.
know, what about me? You forgot about me. I'm 12 years old and I got wounded.
Yeah.
But yet we're creating all these walls and these parameters and these things that we try to, to eliminate the pain, basically, is what it is. Creating these receptors in our body and our minds so we don't have to feel that or engage that.
I, I,
But there's always that person that you meet on the street that will just trigger you, boom, and take you right back to 12. And you're like, oh my God, what the hell
what
just happened?
happened? Right. It Okay, what do you fear? I could talk literally. We could take any one of these questions
Yeah,
and do an hour easy.
yeah.
The hardest part
What do?
for this show
Yeah,
for me anymore is just trying to stay even on the 10 questions. It's like
yeah, yeah.
I'm ready to do
No, I totally get it.
jazz.
Yeah, I'm sure there's no boring moments here.
There are not.
Yeah, especially when you have so many eclectic minds and belief systems and feelings and ideologies. I can see that.
I love in my head we're all trying to describe the same thing.
Yeah, good point. Excellent point.
You know that my my favorite is I say from astrophysics to Zoroastrianism. You know,
Good. Yeah,
unified field theory to yeah, sure, unified any theory.
yeah. We believe that where I come from, in my belief system, we believe that we're just splinters of gods having a human experience.
But to give you a concept from the totally other direction,
Hmm.
earlier this week I was talking to Rick and Janelle, who are some
Okay.
friends of mine who
Hmm.
also they're not big on a specific tradition, but
Hmm.
they say but then the way they get there is the same exact place you are. They don't. It's Rick is
Right.
he was trying to explain that he feels like humans are the sensory tool of the universe, that living
Sure.
things.
I can see that.
Yeah, that, and I think it's right there with yeah shards of
Hmm.
the divinity here to feel, to
Yeah.
experience. What what do you fear? Is there what are you afraid of out there in the world?
What am I afraid of in the world? I don't know. That's a good question too. These are all good questions.
Thank you.
You know, fear is, I don't know, it's false evidence appearing real, right?
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely.
So, what my biggest fear is that I know this Earth's going to end one day,
Right.
and how limited our time is here. I was out to dinner with some friends the other night, and my buddy goes, "Yeah, most of us won't be here in 50 years." And I'm thinking, I'm sitting going, eating my burrito, going, "Holy shit!" Excuse me, could I say that? I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're fine.
I'm
You're
like,
fine.
I'm like, that like hit me like a ton of bricks.
Yeah.
And so it was my mortality. It was like challenged at that moment, and I'm going, "Am I doing enough? Am I like participating?" And that's the fear that set in for me in that moment, because I think
Yeah.
it comes in moments. I don't think it's like I have a fear that I don't really fear anything in the
Right.
sense of fear. I have this moment going, "Wow, that's crazy." I was like, some of us are only 20, someone's going to 30, 50. And man, I got to be like 100 and something. No one wants me around that old.
I
I think
feel
myself.
I very much feel what you're saying, but from a different perspective. Just because like I sometimes fear that I'm not living life enough, that I'm not doing what I could be to the fullest extent, you know. I'm
Yeah,
it's fading a lot more now as we get more into this studio stuff and we're hearing voices and stuff like that and we're telling stories. It's really fun and
yeah.
it's helping me to soothe and to deal with that fear that I have that I'm not living life enough, you know?
Well, that's
Feels
what I was getting to, because that's where I felt like I wasn't like I wasn't experiencing, like I wasn't participating properly or whatever.
Yeah.
But then I come back and, you realign, and you do your drum circles, you do your cookout, you hang out with your friends, you take your kids to the zoo, your grandkids.
right.
Mm,
And that's what's important. The people who are around you, the people that you create family with, the people that you encounter and you meet, they're just other versions of yourself, just living life differently. But they're you.
yeah.
That's another version of yourself as you
Right.
walking through. And
It's
so the biggest fear for me was just, are we going to leave one of my biggest fears, like the only really big fear that I truly have, is, are we going to leave a good place for our children, our grandchildren, because we're borrowing all that from them. All this is on loan to us because it belongs to the future, the next generation.
yeah.
And the next generation can possibly suffer because of our ignorance and stupidity.
Well, that's why I had to get in the arena. You had to do
Yeah.
that. It was the feeling of you had to do something. Yeah.
Hmm.
It was weird. It was this moment of I blame Greta Thunberg that
Okay.
well, if if a teenage kid could stand up in front of the UN and say this is what's wrong,
Hmm.
what was I doing on my ass?
Yeah.
You know,
Oh,
kind of
I get what you're
like,
saying.
yeah, you know, it's like, oh, gosh, I'm kind of not. I mean, I was working diligently. It
Yeah.
wasn't like I wasn't doing things, but it was that realization that I have to get into it to go.
Well, she
Okay.
got a platform though. They gave her a platform to
Oh, well,
present, which
yeah, obviously.
was important. But here's the thing: some of us don't have a platform. We have to create a platform, like you and me. You know, we have to like
Right?
just keep pounding the pavement. You know, we're like knocking on doors. Hey, what's up? Welcome to my show. You know, and here we are. Yeah, it's like that. But, you know,
Pretty
but
much, yeah.
we create a legacy. You know, we're
Yeah.
creating a legacy of information. And this is what's important to me too. Is I want my grandkids and great grandkids and great grandsons. They're going to say, "Who's Papa Iggy? Who's this Papa Iggy we talking about?" And all they got
Ah.
to do is push a YouTube button and go, "There's Papa Iggy right there, the guy wearing the panda head." You know, that's kind of what my goal in life is, to be able to write a book, a visual book about how I experience life and how
Right.
pieces and parts and what I did in that life. Now there are a lot of people, my parents didn't do that, so their story has to be told by me. It's kind of like a oral history. We share this oral history, and so when they shared their oral history, but now I record this oral history because I noticed that the kids, my grandkids, are on computers way faster than I ever was.
Absolutely.
My little grandkids yesterday, they're like, I'm like, what are you doing? It's like, we're at the zoo. Like, well, I'm seeing if there's an app for the zoo, and I'm going, son of a gun. He wants an app for the zoo.
They do it
That map.
automatically. Yeah.
Yeah, he said, there's got to be an app for the zoo. Because he wanted to have the map on his phone. And he had a paper map. I said, but something's cool about the paper map. I talked him out of the phone. He goes, and then he's sitting down on the map. He's looking, goes, yeah, this is where the dinosaurs are. We're going there first.
Best.
So it was a really cool experience yesterday.
You know what? It's funny that you bring it. So I scheduled a couple hours off at the park before I started this craziness. That me and the
Hmm.
9-year-old went off, actually up to Blendon. I mean, just simple, you know, not even like, oh,
Sure.
but just to sit and watch the birds, listen to the chipmunks. You know that
Hmm.
you know that when you hear the squirrel break a limb, you automatically, a little twig, you look, you know right where it is because
Sure.
you've found that rhythm, you know,
Hmm.
and I've always taught him that there's a nature has so much energy if you're willing to. It's that moment where you feel like you're part of it and not separate, and you know, and I knew I needed a little bit of that before
Yeah.
today. I,
Sure.
I'll tell you what, Iggy, what I'm going to ask you to do is promise me that you'll come back and answer the last 3 questions.
Sure. Absolutely.
Because
Absolutely.
I think we can do a show on what do you know, what don't you know, and why are you here?
Yeah. Yeah.
I,
Are you lost yet?
right?
Find your way.
Find your way. One of the
Sure. Yeah, that's no problem.
Then that sounds like a perfect plan because we will take our 10 minutes before the next one and run to bathrooms as we want,
Sure.
and I can't thank you enough. I
No, I
I
appreciate you guys having me on the show. I really appreciate it.
I I've been waiting to talk to you like this forever. I
Awesome.
I just and we lots more. I love you,
Yeah, it's kind of
brother.
what
It's
it's a weird feeling. You know, it's just like, oh my God, someone's going to interview me. I haven't
right.
been interviewed for years. Yeah. Yeah. All right.
See you
Well, you guys go to
soon.
your potty break. Enjoy. Happy Memorial Day. We'll see you soon.
You too. Thank you so much, Iggy. Happy Memorial Day.
All right.
Okay,
Take
bye
care, my
bye.
friends. Bye bye.
He's so full of energy.
Yep.
He just fills me. And from the first time I met him, that was you immediately
Felt that?